Welcome, Regions. This is Web3 Roots Podcast, a space to explore the hearts and minds of regions all over the world. What are the views, motivations, and influences of founders and contributors in the Web3 space? What are the ideas shaping their actions? Let's take a deeper dive into their whys and get to the roots. Welcome, folks, to a new episode of Web3 Roots, where we explore the hearts and minds and worldviews of regions all over the world, individuals in the space. I'm Vanessa. I'm here with my co-host, Claudio. How are you doing, Claudio, on the other side of the world?
I'm doing good. It's a pretty rainy day here, so sad about that. But besides, very chill and happy to be here, have this conversation. So yeah, thanks for the little introduction, and I will pass the same question to Peth. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, and it's a bit of a cloudy day, but there's no rain, so that's nice. And yesterday there was 0 clouds, so yeah, you can't expect that to have that every day, so that's nice.
Same here. A bit of a cloudy day. It was sunny a while ago, but it's actually hot. We are in our drought season, so it's very hot. At least for me. But
I think we need the geographical references. Vanessa, you're in Venezuela, right?
Yes, I am in Venezuela.
I'm now at Bristol, United Kingdom, and Peth, you are in?
Croatia.
Okay, so quite far away, everyone.
Yeah, we're in very different parts of the world. So we are happy to have Peth with us. He's someone that I had in mind since the start of this project. He is a Taoist, the summoner of Metagame. And yeah, happy to have you with us, Peth. Welcome to Web3 Roots, and please proper introduce yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Pete. I've been in the DAO space for a while, and I don't know how far back do you want to go?
Well, I would like to know about your background. I would like to know, how did you get into Web3? And from there, how it was that you started Metagame. So yeah, tell us all about it.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I'm actually a plumber, or I used to be a plumber by profession. I did like gas pipes, water pipes, central heating systems, and these days I barely remember any of that what I was taught in school, because I only worked that for a few years while I was listening to weird and interesting podcasts, and then so I didn't want to do that my whole life, and I was interested in all kinds of other stuff that's completely unrelated to that, obviously. And one of those things was crypto. But even before finding crypto, I was always interested in these sort of like alternative ways of organizing societies, like alternative economic systems, like eco-villages, self-sustainable living, that sort of stuff. And then I found Ethereum, and like my mind was blown, because it was like, okay, so like this is the software layer for building, for like experimenting with building new kinds of societies. So I was immediately drawn in, and I joined the space. I joined the first DAO. It was 2016, I think, like late 2016. The DAO, which infamously blew up, that gathered like $150 million worth of Ether at the time, and that was like 10% of all Ether in existence, or even more maybe. I know it was like a ridiculous amount, and then it was hacked, and then all the money would have been lost if the Ethereum network wasn't hard forked, and there was whole drama around that, whether it should happen or not. And I'm glad that it did happen, because otherwise I would have lost all my Ether. And then that was the beginning of the bad winter for DAOs, because like after that happened, and then for a few years nobody was building DAOs. Everybody was too scared to build DAOs. And then I think about 2 years later, I joined the Meta Cartel, which is a grants giving DAO. They basically pulled some funding that they wanted to give away to people who are building cool projects on Ethereum. And so I joined there, and I was very confused because it was just a Telegram group and a Moloch DAO front end for like voting. It was super basic, so that was before DAO House came into existence. It was just like this front end called Pokemol. You could just see like the amount in the treasury, and you could vote, and there was like no other functionality. And it was just like everything was super basic, and I didn't understand anything. Like I joined this DAO, and I didn't understand like who are the people, what are the projects, what can I do, like what's going on. Like I didn't understand anything. So I wanted to come up with some kind of a system for onboarding people and helping people navigate the DAO. And then as I was working on this concept, then the more I saw like that the whole DAO space has this same problem, and not just like individual DAOs, but like the space as a whole. It's like not easy to join the space and find cool projects to contribute to. And then once you find them, then you have this another problem of onboarding into these projects and not understanding what's going on inside of them. And now there's a bunch more tools that are helping people do that, but it's still not great. But yeah, that's how then Metagame came into existence. Basically, I wanted to solve this onboarding problem for the Meta Cartel and for the DAO space in general. And I also like infused this idea of building Metagame. At first, it was called just the Meta Cartel Black Paper, but then like it's like a whole platform, because it didn't make sense to build it just for this single DAO. And then we categorized it or like described it as a real life MMORPG or a massive online coordination game. And then besides being this onboarding for the DAO space, it's also infused with like my ideas from like my previous interests, which is like building this sort of an alternative society. So that's pretty much what we're doing, like building this network of people and projects, trying to help people join the space, but also getting connected to physical places.
So in a way, you're still declogging pipes, but on Web3.
Right.
And I want to know how was the process of creating Metagame? Because when I got to know Metagame, one of the first things that I came around with was the lure of Metagame, and I was just fascinated by it. This character Nova, and that is an octopus, and all these symbolism that I found there. So I want to know a bit of how was that creative process, and a bit of how was your mindset back then, and how's your mindset right now? Has your perspectives of the space change in a way? A bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So I think the idea of the octopus came to be, and at the day that I came up with Metagame, like when Metagame stopped being this Meta Cartel Black Paper and was supposed to become Metagame as a massive online coordination game. And it was during ETH Berlin in 2019, and we were doing a hike a bit outside Berlin. We were walking around this lake and hill, and at some point we sat down on top of a hill and we started talking. Like one person decided to run an impromptu yoga session, and I don't know what others were doing, but I know that we ended up in this discussion about like, if we were dropped in an urban environment, how long would it take us to get our bearings and thrive? Basically, like to figure out, okay, what kind of things can we produce, what can we do, and like how do we organize and all that sort of stuff. And how we talk about, okay, so like everybody is interested in Web3, but besides that, like somebody is a musician, somebody is a yoga instructor, somebody knows this, somebody has that other skill, and there's all of these different skills that people have. And that's also how I started thinking about Metagame. Like, we are building Metagame, but we're not building just like this technological platform, but we need people who will like be making music, we need people to organize events, we need people to like write educational content, we need all kinds of different things. And that was the idea of the Octopus, of like spreading in all directions and like producing all of these content and spreading the meme of Metagame. And that was in 2019. And so like then my biggest issue with building Metagame was that I'm not a developer, so like all I could do was write, and that's what I did. Then I was writing these posts, and then I started doing the community calls and trying to get people who are interested in like actually building it, because I couldn't build it myself. And that obviously proved harder than expected, because that's kind of how my thing around DAOs changed. Because it's like in the very beginning, when I was starting Metagame, I was like, okay, so I'm building this DAO, it will be completely decentralized, and then people will come, people will find things to do, they will start doing things, and everything will be great. But then like most people are not used to working in this kind of environment. So like most people coming in, they're not gonna go on their own way and like figure out what needs to be done and build it. They will just like be asking questions, or they will say they will do things and then disappear, and like all kinds of issues pop up. So that I guess that was like the thing that changed the most, like realizing that people in general aren't very autonomous. Like most people coming into DAO space, since they're not used to working this way, they expect to be told what to do, because they're just not used to working a job or like a project where they need to figure it out on their own. So that was one thing
You mentioned. Sorry. I'm curious about all these like coordination problems. You mentioned that you participated on the DAO, the famous slash infamous one. Was any of these problems that you are now mentioning, did you see them there? And in what other DAOs did you participate? And you've mentioned confusion, now the autonomy slash disautonomy. Curious about how have you been experiencing them, and what how to like learn from them.
Right. So the DAO didn't get to have that problem, I guess, because they built the DAO framework and they did the crowdfund. So they raised all the money, and that's when the real work was supposed to start, but it didn't, because like pretty much as soon as the fundraising ended, the DAO was hacked. So there was not much happened there. But in that original DAO, there was no user interface at all. Like you had to interact with the contract through Etherscan. So it was no user interface at all, which was pretty horrible. And that's how it remained for a few years, basically. And so today, like there's like DAO House, or there's Aragon, that you have like this actual website where you can see the DAO, you can like start proposals, you can do everything through that interface. But in the original DAO, you couldn't do any of that. Like you had to use it through Etherscan, which is not easy, not nice, not not very good overall.
And the other question before I forget, do you have any personal kind of relationship with Octopus, or it was just a like communal metaphor that you all used? I'm thinking of the movie, the documentary Octopus, My Teacher, and I don't know, that was like my first actual relationship, and I was like so amazed and so on. So curious about your relationship.
Yeah, I watched the documentary like I think about 2 years ago. That's cool, but no, I don't have any relationship other than that. It was just the metaphor, basically.
A metaphor for what exactly?
of like having this community that spreads in all directions, and like having people doing all kinds of different things besides writing code. And that's like one of the things that we wanted to also change with Metagame, that like in our space, but also Web3 in general, people often join and they're like, oh, I'm not a developer, so there's nothing for me to do. And in Metagame, we wanted to make it so that really like there's something to do for anybody, like regardless of what kind of skills you have. You can write, you could produce music, you can record podcasts. Like if you can't do any of that, you can at least like welcome people to the community, help people around the community, like do community stuff. So like whatever, like even if you don't have any skills, there is something that you can contribute to it.
Yeah, I give faith of that. So what would you say are the biggest challenges for onboarding in the space, and how would you say Metagame is solving it?
Say one big issue is that there's just no good general onboarding that helps people understand what the space is about and like what's the potential of these technologies, why it matters. Like most people joining during the bull run are drawn in because they hear that you can make money, and then there are projects that are promising people to get rich, or there's like a lot of speculation. And then like the educational stuff is generally more focused on like, okay, so this is how you can install a wallet, or like it's a blockchain, so it has miners, or there's staking, and there's these hashes, and there's like whatever. And it's like very technical and not relatable, and you like read it and it's like, okay, what the fuck, like I don't understand it. And like even if you understand it, like why is this relevant, like why does this matter? So this is what we're trying to do differently with Metagame, by like really having people go through that the onboarding game that really talks them through like the very basics of like what is this technology and why it matters. And like based on their level of understanding, or if they're completely new to the space, then you can tell them like what is a blockchain, and then how the space splits into like DAOs, NFTs, DeFi, and then like what are DAOs, or like what is DeFi, and then explain like the very basics of that. So we're trying to really streamline the whole onboarding process by helping people understand what are these different technologies, like what are these different sectors of the crypto space, what's there like why people are excited about them, and then having these different paths to help people onboard into the space. Like right now we just have the metagame specific ones, so we have like the builder's path, designer's path, the innkeeper's path, whatever. There's a few of these. I think we have like 6 of them, and that are like role specific, so for helping people join metagame through these different, like based on their specific skill set. And actually even before joining through specific skill set, there's like a general path for helping people and get onboarded. So like subscribe to the newsletter, go to the community and introduce yourself, and that sort of stuff. That's also like applicable to other projects, and that really guides people and helps them get plugged into the community, rather than just like joining the Discord server and being like, okay, now what?
And enter gamification, I guess. Where and what kind of games are you trying to introduce to make this all more amicable and interactive in a way? Is it kind of a mindset thing, or do you get it into practices, and which kind of practices are you interested in?
Both, I guess. So like it's kind of explaining metagame as a real life MMORPG. So like putting this mindset of like life is a game, and you're supposed to be leveling up and learning new skills. And then like there's this gamification framework that explains why people like games, and it actually kind of maps neatly onto some levels of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what was I gonna say? So yeah, the thing with games is that like each of the games hits one of these specific drives that drive human beings forward, and then metagame actually has the potential to hit all of them, because like it's not just a game, because in games like you have these I forget what are the actual drives in this framework, but basically what I'm trying to say is like you have like one of them is like higher purpose or meaning or something like that, and it's like, okay, so in game you kind of have that, but and you're like leveling up, you get this ownership, so like ownership is one of the drives, but like at the end of the day it's still a game, and like you made all this progress, but all the progress is inside the game. Whereas in metagame, like you're progressing, but you're actually like gaining new skills and advancing yourselves in the real life. And then yeah.
Maybe a rather personal question. Are you a kind of chess player, Super Smash Bros, GTA? Which kind of games did you grow up with, and how, I don't know, that kind of experiences have shaped this kind of games that you're trying to build now?
Yeah, I was always like an RPG person, so like World of Warcraft and that sort of games. So I had this period where I was literally downloading every MMORPG that existed. I also played some strategy games like Warcraft or like StarCraft or like Rise of Nations. I don't know. There's Age of Empires, obviously. That's like a classic. I mean, I played all kinds of games. These days, I don't really. I'm playing the Resident Evil 4 remake now, but yeah, I don't play many games these days. But yeah, I think I would say that like MMORPGs definitely had the most impact in terms of where I'm going with metagame. And then in terms of like gamifying metagame itself, so like not having it just like a mindset sort of thing, like it's the actual like UI design, and then stuff like the leaderboard, the XP. So like you gather as you like contribute to metagame, you're earning XP, and we have the achievement NFTs. There's a few other elements, but yeah, there's a long way to go in that regard of like, oh, we have like the player of the month, but yeah, there's like a long way to go in terms of implementing more of these like gamified mechanisms to make it more like a game.
Hey everyone, Claudio here, co-host of the Web3 Roots podcast. Thank you for joining us in this journey. If you like what we're doing, consider supporting our content on social media and spread the word with your friends. Follow us on Blockchain Solidarity Pod to keep you updated on all the podcasts being crafted by this collective. You'll find all the links in the description below. And now let's get back to the chat.
Well, at least in my experience, metagame has been one of the places in the space where I've learned the most. I want to ask you, Peth, what is metagame vision for the future? What would be, how is metagame going to look like in the long-term vision?
So like in the short term and right now, I'll mostly explain metagame as being this onboarding machine or a decentralized factory. So like bringing together everything that people need for joining the Web3 space, like mostly the DAO space, and helping people build DAOs or like whatever else they're building in the Web3 space. But the way I explain it long term is really like a metagame as being like about helping people find the most optimal ways to play life, to like help them figure out what kind of skills they want to gain and like help them gain them, and really like design their own lifestyle. And like metagame itself then really long term becomes this sort of decentralized society. And then in the phase 2 we want to start adding physical guilds. Like right now we have like 40 different projects that are a part of metagame, and actually some of those, and like we actually have a few of community members and projects that have like that are a part of like physical locations, like the Crypto Commons Association has like a not a hotel, but kind of like a hotel in Austria where they're hosting events and crypto people in general. And then the Give It people have like a eco village in where is that? In South America, but what's the country?
Guatemala, maybe?
No, 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 no. Oh my God. It's right at the top of my head, but I just can't get it.
Mexico, Colombia.
But it doesn't really
Anyways,
matter. Like the Bloom network has a few. Then we onboarded Agartha, which is actually specifically about curating like intentional communities and like eco villages and that sort of places. But the ones that are like good with technology. So that's the idea. Like longer term, we have this whole network of people and projects, but also like physical locations that people can move between and like are able to live there if they want to, like for fairly cheap. In some of these places, you can live for free. And what was I gonna say? Yeah, have this basically alternative socioeconomic system and like a society or economy that's focused on human and ecological thriving rather than economic extraction and like profit maximization.
and curious in these decentralized societies, do you have any relationship with the network state book and all that kind of thesis? It has had a lot of traction in the region space. So have you been in touch with all of that like framework? Or yeah, where have you been getting your influences to get to these decentralized societies kind of models?
I mean, I kind of like saw it coming with Ethereum itself because it's like you can build new economies with it, new societies, and like it's decentralized, so and it's like global. So it's been a long time coming. Except like when I first started it, if I was telling people explaining this, they would just like look at me like I'm crazy. Like at least people who aren't deep into the crypto space. But yeah, like these days, Balaji really popularized the whole concept, and then like now it's become a common thing, like a normal thing. Oh yeah, like we're building a network state that's like completely normal. Yeah, I wouldn't say that 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 his book or whatever really influenced me because like I started Metagame before he wrote the book. But there's definitely some relation between the ideas. I personally don't like the like calling them network states. I think it's drawing like baggage of states, like the states of the world, the old world that we kind of want to move away from. And I was writing a bit of a rant on that recently, and I'm currently writing a post called Fractal Societies that kind of explains this. I guess the difference between the network state or what we're trying to build, and why I think that network
Could
state.
you give us a brief outline of that post and how would you differentiate the fractal versus the network state?
Yeah, so like network state kind of like for me presupposes that there's this like massive structure with not necessarily, but yeah, some kind of a bureaucracy that's kind of centralized, and you're either a part of it or you're not. Whereas like with the idea of fractal societies, you have different communities that can be a part of different communities, so like their own, like be completely autonomous on their own, or they can be a part of different communities, but it's like all at the same time. Like they can be different teams, different people, different projects, different like villages, whatever, can be arranged in infinite different configurations across different networks. So they're not like tied to any specific state, but more so like they can be like completely autonomous on their own, or they can be a part of the network, but it's like all happening at the same time.
And in comparison, the fractional ones, the fractional society, how would you describe it?
That's the basic idea of like fractal societies. Like you zoom in and you like from the societal level to the like individual level, and it's like you get these whole. So like it can be like everything can be a whole of its own. Like a team can be self-sustainable, it be fully autonomous of its own, but it can also be a part of a bigger whole at the same time. And then that bigger whole can also like be a whole of its own, but it's also a part of an even bigger whole. Like, and then like it goes up like from the individual level, like the family level, up to like the planetary level.
Interesting. Vanessa, I don't know if you have any question.
Yes. So you've described yourself as a metamodernist and a game B player. And how's that shaped your view of the space and your view of metagame?
Well, I drew a lot of inspiration from both of those for metagame. So like I was before crypto, I was using like I think I've discovered, I guess, both around the same time. I think I discovered Game B a bit earlier than crypto, but Game B is basically about defining like what's wrong with the current world and like what would societies that are not like driving towards the ecological collapse would look like how would you fix the incentive systems, and like how would you like create societies that are more like better coordinated in terms of like solving actual problems instead of just maximizing profit. And with meta modernism, I guess it's kind of similar. I see it like more focused on the personal in some way, but the idea is basically like there was modernism, which was like described by these like massive efficiencies and like having everything's like very utilitarian. And then you had there was like the past few hundred years, I guess, or like 200 or something. And then you had the postmodernism, which was like, oh, wait a minute, like this modern age is not going so well, because you see like how all of these things that we thought were really like perfect are playing out like not so great. Like the idea of a corporation, of like a limited liability company, was like an incredible invention, and the markets are awesome and all of that. Like capitalism creates so much prosperity and lifted so many people out of poverty. But then like after it's been going for decades, then you get to this point of like, okay, so there's like, you start getting these monopolies, you have people who are like really exploiting the system, and like people who are extracting resources and all of that sort of stuff. So postmodernism was kind of like about deconstruction. So it was all about like fuck modern society, like let's tear it all down. And then metamodernism is basically about like taking the best of like of both worlds, so like taking what works from modernism, but like having that critical eye of postmodernism, like, and like coming up with a synthesis of both.
Yeah, I like this perspective on sort of re-enchanting the world, but doing it like in a rational way. Awesome. So, how can one start playing the metagame?
There's metagame.wtf, and like the process is fairly guided. I hope you have some magic, because that's been a bit of a pain point with people, because the onboarding quests require people to already have some magic, and people who are joining the space generally don't already have it. So there's also like a playbook for helping people get it, but it takes some patience. And then I will also recommend that people go to our podcast, which you can find through the website. So as you enter the platform, you will find the drawer upside on the top page of the dashboard, where you can find the podcast, and then you can go to the interview with Hansi Freinacht to hear about metamodernism, or like the most recent episode with Jim Rutt, one of the creators of the Game B movement, or the ideas. And I would recommend definitely everybody to get familiarized with both of those ideas. I think they can be super impactful and useful for helping people understand and navigate the future. And I also want to shill MetaFest, so we are organizing a festival/conference in Croatia. So that's at metafest.wtf. And please join us.
Yes, tell us a bit more about what's going to be like, what's going to happen there at MetaFest.
Yeah, so it's happening on this 200 years old fortress near the sea, and like the location is amazing. There will be all kinds of activities around Pula, so like for people who want to not just come to a conference but also like have fun in other ways, so like anything from jet skiing or quad biking to like paintball, whatever. People are interested. There's really all kinds of activities available here, and then MetaFest itself will be mainly focused on DAOs and region projects, so like whatever is regenerative, but we're trying to make it not just crypto. So like it's going to be about DAOs, but we're also trying to bring in people from like the decentralized organizations of like before crypto. So like decentralized organizing before actual DAOs, or like regenerative projects that have nothing to do with refi. So like quote unquote old school regenerative projects and decentralized organizations, and also trying to bring in some people from the game B space or metamodernism. So the Hansi Freinacht, the author of the book on political metamodernism, is going to be attending, and we're trying to get more people who have this sort of a bigger picture view, and then we can have this kind of merge of cultures, so that it's not just another crypto conference, but really like a conference about that includes crypto, but it's about anything regenerative or anything that really has the potential to change the world for the better.
Sounds amazing. Where can we learn more about the schedule and the details and also get early bird tickets for it?
So that's all at metafest.wtf, and the schedule is not up there yet. There's just a list of speakers, but yeah, it will come soon.
And where did you get the organization funding? Is it specifically from Metagame, or are you like collaborating with different organizations? How have you been solving all of that?
You mean for Metagame or Metafest?
Yes, for MetaFest.
For Metafest. So for Metafest we are seeking sponsors mainly. So like we are also selling tickets, and then the tickets will cover about 30% of the cost, and for the rest we're getting sponsors. So yeah, also if you know any sponsors or if any sponsors, potential sponsors are listening, we have 2K, 5K, and 10K packages that include some cool perks.
And are you
yeah.
drawing any lines on sponsorship? Are you open to anything? How like the ethical lines of the founding, raising, and so on?
Yeah, we're not gonna take money from anybody, but like generally projects applying, we're not taking money from scams, but projects that are interested in sponsoring these kind of events are generally aligned with these ideas.
Cool. And very curious. There was this Green Pill festival in India that it was also their first their first edition. The whole team was like new to the space, I mean in real life events, so I'm imagining how much of a complex scenario can be to organize such an event. For you, have you done this before? What kind of challenges are you currently facing, and what is your projection out of this conference? Why do you think it's a very important event to focus such amount of energy?
Yeah, I saw the Green Pill Festival. It really looked awesome. So this is actually the third MetaFest, and we did the one conference besides that and another hackathon. But all of this, so we did that's 4 events in total, but all of them were virtual. So that's the biggest difference. Like doing it in the physical space requires, it's a much bigger challenge and requires funding. So like all of that previously we were able to do with very little funding, because there was no you didn't have to pay for the venue, you didn't have to pay for the food, which are like some of the biggest expenses. So definitely organizing in the real world comes with its own set of challenges, which are not easy to overcome. But yeah, we have people who have experience, like, so we have people that we can ask for advice, people that we can ask for help. So it should be fine. And
Well,
why is it important? Yeah.
yeah, I definitely want to attend, and I'm excited for the MetaFam getting together.
Yeah, I think that's a super important bit for me. So this will be the biggest gathering of people for Metagame, and a lot of people will meet for the first time, and so that's why it's super important for Metagame, and also like because it promotes Metagame itself, and in general, I think it's important because we're trying to like build this bridge between different cultures and different communities, not just crypto, but like communities who want to do good in general. So I think it's good for the crypto space, and it's good for other spaces as well.
Great. I don't know if you have another question, Claudio.
Yes, I'm thinking of your personal practices in Game B. I don't know if I'm getting it right or if I have like a different idea of what Game B means, but the first thing I thought with this was, I don't know, um, journaling or like breath work or like meditation or like all that kind of area. So correct me please if I'm wrong, but yeah, I would like to learn a bit more about your own personal practices and how then can all this be intertwined with the community space, and yeah, that kind of leap from the individual to the communal kind of area, starting with you.
Yeah, so like this, I wouldn't say this is in Game B. Like Game B is really like more focused on the bigger picture, but like in the books about metamodernism, it talks about more about like personal practice and helping people like reach this optimal state of being, and helping people be happier and like live more balanced lives. In terms of my own practices, it's not going great. Like I've been trying to live more balanced over the past year or so, but then the past few months, like yeah, at first I was exercising and now I'm not. So I'm not living very healthy currently, like with all this focus on MetaFest and trying to get Metagame to the fundraise and all of that. So I can't say that I'm doing well myself in that regard. I think the best things that I was doing was like when I was exercising a few times a week, mostly like rock climbing. So we have a rock climbing gym, and on the weekends we would go out, climb out on the actual walls or rocks, or like
Great
just
places
going
to
for
climb in
hikes.
Croatia, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of different climbing spots around here.
Great. I would love to get to know Croatia. So looking forward to MetaFest.
Yeah, I hope you're able to join.
I also want to encourage people to subscribe to Metagame Substack. Great content there. Looking forward to your article on fractal societies.
Awesome. I will share the link and then we can put it in the description.
Great. And yeah, I don't know if we should close this space unless we have any further comments, questions. I don't know if Peth, Vanessa. If not, thank again for this conversation. Very inspiring. We really hope the Meta Fest, the Metagame project, and your personal practices all get along together. So yeah.
Thank you, Peth, for joining this space, for being our guest, and for sharing more about the metagame. That for me personally has been a great place to get into the space, to exactly as you said, find my own place, my own way in the space. Thank you for being here. Looking forward to MetaFest and looking forward to keep building this decentralized society.
Awesome. I'm very glad to hear that. And thank you for having me. Thank you for participating in Metagame as well. And yeah, hope to see you both at MetaFest.
Great. See you around.
Great. Have a good week, guys. Thank you very much, and all the love to you.
Much love.
You too.
Bye bye.